Alrighty, guys, let's get a game in for today. So technically, this is going to be my second game of the day. My first game I played, the microphone was off. So I played the whole game with no sound, and it's a shame. So I'm going to play my second game of the day. In that game, I had the white pieces, and I led off with e4. So my opponent's leading off with e4 in this case. I don't remember what this is called, but it's essentially they're trying to get their knight around here. I'm gonna go ahead and develop as if this were an Italian game. I'm pretty sure this knight goes here. I want to make sure, absolutely sure, that I don't trap my bishop somehow. This is pinned, but, you know, if we have to, we can always rotate the bishop back. I don't think we need to just yet. We'll push h3, or h6, excuse me, from the black side. We'll push h6 in a second and see what my opponent wants to do with his bishop. I mean, technically, we could still castle queenside if we really wanted. I don't want, but... I would like to get castled, but I'm waiting on my opponent just to see if it looks like they're going to castle or not. I'm just so gun-shy, is that the right word? About putting my king over here. Can you guys hear that sound in the background? The dog playing with one of her toys. A big old bucket, little big plastic bottle type thing that she just rolls around. Anyway, I'm just a little gun-shy about putting my king over here, and when I might have to exchange this, yeah. I always do that. I need to stop doing this. So there is technically two defenders here. I just got to be careful. But you know what? We haven't castled yet, and that's fine. We don't need to castle. We're okay. We are about to mess up our pawn structure here, so let's just keep playing as... You know what? Let's leave these two pawns alone, as if we're going to castle queenside. That move I don't know. I have no idea what's happening here. Freeing up the queen, maybe? Let's go ahead and make this trade. Because now that gives us a little less protection here. Oh no. I'll be damned. He comes here, we go here. Let's try it. If He captures, we capture. And then we both capture back. He captures, I capture. I can still castle queenside. Interesting. Very interesting. My opponent's playing this as if they know it, so I'm gonna... Queens are off the board. Let's see what my opponent does. If he's gonna try to retreat. Ooh, sneaky, sneaky. So he snuck his pawn back. Good for him. Notice I can't do the same thing. Can we trap this bishop? I mean, as much as trapping it could be. Because now he can't go either place, and he can't go either place. Or do I just... But I'm giving him an extra pawn, or do I just retreat my bishop? Let's just retreat my bishop. So, wait, he snuck a second pawn? How did he... Was it a second pawn? I thought that was his first pawn. Oh, no, I guess that... Right, this is pawn number 1, and that's pawn number 2. Right. Okay. I missed that. Miscalculation. So, yeah, I don't want to give him a third pawn. But I will make that trade. That's fine for me. I'm happy with that. All right. So now we can... Now we are trapping this bishop because that gets us back in the game. Well, as much as one could be in the game or out of the game. So this bishop's trapped, so I'm going to get it back. The only way I'm going to get it back, though, is by forfeiting my castling privileges. So we're just going to do this. He wants me to move. Okay, this is clever. He wants me to move so that he can pick up a pawn here. Okay. Let me think this through for a second. This is what's going to keep him up 2 pawns. I'm just going to eliminate it. Let him eliminate. So we have opened up this file now. I was debating on which way to take back. I'm thinking that my rook is going to come here. If that's at all helpful, I don't know. So my opponent's up 1 pawn. Now this gives me the open file. And now I can get here. So do I go? I think we're gonna go here. So the question is, do I bust up this structure? Or do I bust up this structure? So close that down and then use this pawn to defend. So now my opponent is not in time to capture. Granted, I'm not in time to capture his pawn either. But that's what this is for. Doggy's here. She's trying to eat my leftover cereal. All right, so I'm thinking I've got to get here, put my opponent in check, which will force him to come here. Does that help? I don't know. So now we pick up his passed pawn. Oh, but we lose a queen in the process. Well, we trade a queen for a rook. So now it's a king and rook end game. My opponent's got 4 connected pawns. This is going to be a bit of a challenge. So my opponent can't come here, so this pawn falls. Just want to make sure there's no possibility of stalemate yet. I don't remember how to do this. Guys, I don't remember how to do this. He has to move down the board. Oh, no. Whew. Took me a second. Those checkmating patterns, guys. Woof. Those checkmating patterns are challenging. They are challenging. I'm sure there was a faster one back here. See, if he had gone here, then... Right, then I can come here. Oof. All right, let's back up a little bit, because there was something I want to look at back here with the rook. Right here. So this is a win for white. Oh, because white gets a queen, right. Because if he pushes here, this is not fast enough. And I'm not over all the way. So he gets a queen versus a rook. All right. Yeah, I as soon as I moved that, I knew there was an issue. Because what I should have done was, yeah, I've got to get away from this square. So the king is defending this square, so I just got to, just even that would work. Because then if he pushes, I can have time to get behind it, and then I'm okay. But this was a mistake right here, because I'm not threatening capturing, because my opponent just pushes, and then I slide. My opponent pushes a pawn, I slide down, he captures with a queen. Not good. And I can't get behind the pawn because of the king, and so I should have given myself to get room behind. Any one of these squares would have worked. Just got to be able to have, because he's got 1, 2, and I just need 1, 2. So, all right. But yeah, this was a win for me. I'm happy with it. And then, yeah, we can simply trade away material. The king is too far behind. We just queen. And then from here, it says checkmate in 11. Checkmate in 6. 5. Yeah, the king does have a square he can go to. We haven't cut him off completely. We got to keep that in mind, that we're not stalemating. This is an obvious win for black, and we don't want to stalemate. So I moved up the board, taking opposition. We've talked about opposition. Opposition is where you are opposite the opponent's king. If he moves, we move, taking opposition. Whoever moves into opposition is what you want. So I am moving into opposition, so I have the advantage. My opponent has to try to move away from opposition. And then I went queen e3. I went queen e3. Yeah, I went here. Still checkmate in 4, so that I didn't ruin it. It's good. Checkmate in 4 from here. King f4. That's what I did. Then my opponent made his move. And then I should go... I went queen f3, which was a mistake. Yeah, don't do this. Don't put the queen like this. Yeah, I had to go back. I had to get out of the way. The queen has to get out of the way. So the king, in the king and queen endgame, the king is the one that's doing the work, driving the opponent's king. And then once you get into a situation like we did, where I'm here and he's here, right? These three are blocked off. The opponent can't come. Then we can just checkmate like we would with a rook. Yeah, I got to get my queen out of the way. That's all this is telling me, is get the queen out of the way. And so now, finally, the queen is out of the way by nature of my opponent's king moving away from the queen. But the queen is away from the battle right now. The king is the one that's going to step in. I see. It wants me to come here because my queen is cutting off my opponent. So I can come here, putting a wall. This is cut off. So my opponent has to move into opposition with me, and then I can sling down. Okay, so that's checkmate too. So that's what it is. I took opposition here, and I didn't need to. I needed to actually, because the queen is cutting him off here. Okay. Yep, I just needed to make a wiggle move with the queen, keeping the opponent. That's what I didn't see. It was the queen is cutting off here. The king is cutting off here. So my opponent's actually, yeah. The queen is far enough away not to interfere with the king's movement, inside this. So this is the wall we've built, and now I need to waste a turn to force my opponents to come back into opposition. So waste the turn. My opponent only has one move. Now they're behind this wall. Then we deliver checkmate. And I didn't see that right away, and I couldn't get my brain to process that fast enough. So we wasted a couple moves here, and then basically all I did was now I got it. So now I'm creating the wall here, but I shouldn't have. This is a dangerous situation. But my opponent went back in front of the wall, and then I checkmated. So we got it in the end. It took us a little bit when we got there. All right, let's take a look at this opening. Let's see what the name of this guy is. The Dresden Opening. For any of you Harry Blackstone, I don't remember. I'm a failure at my Dresden files. I'm a failure of Dresden files. Don't watch this. You guys are Dresden file fans. Here's the Dresden Opening for you. Is the Dresden Opening any good? I have no idea. It looks like it's about a balanced opening. It looks like 50 and 45, 50, 52. Black has this. So white is giving black a slight advantage in some of these. Black has a small advantage. So I don't know. I don't know if the Dresden Opening is a good one or not, but might be one that we look into one day. All right. So what else happened in this game? Right, the bishop came. Here we go. And this is, I do this many times. I've had this where this stupid knight comes to d5, and when the knight comes to d5, I've got no retort. Right, I've got nothing, and now we've got a double. Oops, now we have a double attack here. And every time we do, I say, man, I wish my bishop was right here. No idea what this move is about, honestly. I have no idea. Sacrifice? Because you pick up a piece here at the end of this exchange. Right. Okay, interesting. So you pick up a free pawn out of the deal. Okay. Hey, the engine agrees with me that I found the best move. Ha! Ha ha! Because the bishop pair would be slicing through. And that, my friends, is checkmate. Really glad I didn't lose this game. Right? Right? Really glad we didn't lose this game. Woo! Oh, duh. Oh my gosh. Duh, duh, duh. Of course I can move my bishop. Because it's still covered. So I was worried that moving the bishop meant undefending these two pawns. Now, I'm not too worried about this one, obviously, because it's defended by the king, but I was worried about undefending this pawn. But I shouldn't have been, because I'm still on the same diagonal. All I saw in my mind was moving my bishop from here undefended these two pawns, and I never considered the fact that this is the same diagonal. It's totally fine, so I could have just moved here. Ah, phooey. Oh well. So I gave my opponent back an opening that they didn't deserve. Remember, just remember this, and it's entirely up to you and your games to decide what's important to you. The first person to make this rook trade, right? Both of our rooks are connected. The first person to make the rook trade gives the defender the open file. So my opponent made the trade and gave me the open file. So now I have the open file, and it just so happens in this case that does allow me to throw a check in. Does it do anything? I don't know, but it is something to consider. So I got my check in, my opponent, and then yeah, the question is, which of these pawns do we pick up? The engine says neither. Don't care. Just keep the open file. Okay. So my opponent wasted a turn having to come back with the king, right? Instead of coming here in one turn, he went here and then back. I also wasted a turn. Instead of going here in one turn, I went here and back. So it ended up being a net wash, but I think if my opponent had chosen not to defend this pawn, that I would have happily scooped it up and then given me all three of these as targets. You know, scoop up this pawn and then drop down into here, and then I can pick up the two outside pawns. But as it turned out, that was unnecessary. Good. I'm glad pushing past was the correct move here. And then eliminating that passed pawn was more important than giving my opponent the rook. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why I got my king involved here. I don't think it was necessary. My opponent just has 2 turns, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get there. So there's no way my rook is getting involved. My king is getting involved to save this pawn. So I should have just continued on with my plan of just pushing my outside pawn. It was completely a waste of time. Especially since I went basically directly back. The only reason in this case I decided to come here was if my opponent decided to go chasing my passed pawn, and if he shifted over at this point in time to the king side of the board. King side? Yeah. My brain is exploding. If my opponent had shifted over to the king side of the board, then my king is now shifted over to the queen side and can start looking at this pawn. In this case, it didn't happen. And now, like I said, my passed pawn is just too fast. The fact that my opponent didn't also do the same thing and defend, just like I did, that's where the game fell apart. So this was a very even game right up until this point. Checkmate and 8, even from here. I don't know my checkmate patterns. See, if I had gone here, that's these cut off, these cut off. This is cut off, so my opponent would have to come down here. And once you come down here... No way that's checkmate, right? This is not checkmate. No, because he can block this way with his pawn. Because I say my opponent's king can't go here or here, but he has this pawn that he can block with. At this point in time, I just figured I'd pick up the passed pawn, so there's no threat anymore. I can always retreat with my queen and start that process over again. But yeah, I completely missed the fact that this does come. So that was my fault. But I had the extra material, so now we're down into a rook end game. One of us is up a rook and the other one isn't. Yeah, and this was the mistake. So right here, yep, this was, yep, don't do this. I could have even come, oops, yeah, I could have even come this way. Right? Only thing I did not want to be is I did not want to be on this square, right? Off the queening square. I don't want to be on either one of these two squares. And I can't come here or here. So I should have happened. That's an interesting picture. Don't draw them here. I'm a big dumb idiot. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I could have easily come here or any one of these squares, and that would have either one of these squares. So I had lots of options, and out of all the options I possibly had, I think I chose one of the worst. But I was able to survive, and then unfortunately my opponent's just not fast. He's just not fast enough. Once the pawn gets behind the king, like once there's space behind the king, so if your pawn gets one square of space in between the two of you, then your opponent's king can never catch up. Because even though you kind of pause to get the queen and then move back, doesn't matter. King can't approach the queen. So, all right, guys, that was a fun game. I'm glad we got the checkmate this time instead of running out of time and end in a draw or a stalemate. How many times have I done that? So we used our time properly. We thought things through, and we got the checkmate. I would have liked to have gotten it a little bit differently, a little bit more effectively, more efficiently, but we got it. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye.